conference. We here at the Minnesota Council of Churches are here this morning to speak about the truth and reparations that we so heartily believe in. And I'm, wanted to start us out this morning and just kind of speak from my heart, and what I really am seeing and believing and grateful for is the fact that, Minnesota right now is at the epicenter of being transformed with racial justice. Not something that we actually asked to be, but now we are. And I feel that we have a responsibility to respond as the church to come and talk about these things. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about concerning this and support wholeheartedly is the fact that truth telling in our stories is so important. And there has been such a vacuum of missing stories, not only from Black and Brown people, but our Indigenous people and others as well. And so I think this is very important that the Minnesota Council of Churches come and we get behind what is happening in our community, what is truly going to impact the future of our state, our cities, and the people who live here, especially the people of Brown and Black descent and Indigenous people. So I am grateful today to be here and to talk about what is happening and what we are supporting going forward in our Truth and Reparations Act here that we are coming together with. So I am grateful. And so I want to hand it over to others to speak this morning and be very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Presiding Elder Smith. Bishop Ann Svenningsen.
Thank you, Jerad, and Presiding Elder Smith. Many others, I have deep roots in Minnesota, generations of family members, farmers in Long Prairie, preachers in Kenyon and Leroy, and I have a deep love for this state. But not every person living on the land that became Minnesota has experienced it as a place of equity. And I am learning how to listen, to hear the deep stories of pain, injustice, and racism, experiences different from my own. Today, Minnesota, our beloved state, has some of the worst racial inequities of any state in our nation. Disparities in education, healthcare, home ownership, income. The killing of George Floyd has opened our eyes once again to the deadly consequences of racism in our state. And sadly, heartbreakingly, the Christian church has too often kept silent. Now we must speak. This is a moment of great urgency, a moment we cannot lose. Last month, the Minnesota Council of Churches, which I think is the largest network of Christians in our state, voted unanimously to initiate a statewide conversation about the effects of racism in this state. We will lead a process of truth-telling, education and accountability, and reparation. The Council is working to foster deep relationships between predominantly white denominations like the ELCA and historic Black denominations and congregations. The MCC has made anti-racism a central focus of its work. But the conversation of truth-telling and reparations will go deeper across our state and lead to change. I am so honored to be on this panel this morning, and I have deep confidence in and love for the leaders in the Council of Churches, like those here today. Together, we follow Jesus, who came to bring good news to the poor and liberation to the oppressed, and we believe in a God whose love is boundless and whose passion for justice is mighty as a rushing stream. Perhaps, just perhaps, Minnesota today can find the courage to do this hard work of truth-telling and reparation, and maybe even help lead the way for the work that's so needed throughout our land. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Svennungsen. Bishop Howe. Bishop Howell, you're on mute right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerad, Bishop Ann, and Presiding Elder Smith. I fully support this vision of truth and reparations. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, as stated by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which means to address and change systemic racism in Minnesota, which ranks high in racial disparities compared to all states in this country, and has taken forever and a day to come to this conclusion. But it is bending towards justice. To all Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities affected by these disparities and privileged systems working against them and the damage it has caused, and the strongest opinions accusing the church as a perpetrator of oppression and racism over the years. This is a Kairos moment that the Church of the Minnesota Council of Churches is concluding this reality to truth tell, educate, and seek reparations at this right moment whose time has come. I do fully support this vision of truth and reparations.
Thank you, Bishop Howell. We have been joined by President Billy Russell. We're going to give him a minute to settle in. As we do so, there are two MCC staff on this call who can speak to how we will be doing this work. I'd like to invite Reverend Jim Bear Jacobs, our Director of Racial Justice, to speak next.
Thank you, Jerad, and good morning to everyone who is joining us today. My name is Reverend Jim Bear Jacobs. I am the Director of Racial Justice for the Minnesota Council of Churches, and I am a citizen of the Stockbridge-Munsee Mohican Nation. As a Native American, I am excited to be partnering with such a great number of faith communities from across the state of Minnesota. The time is long overdue for us to come together to listen to some of the difficult truths from our Indigenous and our African American neighbors. It is time to learn about the historic trauma that has been perpetuated upon these communities and the effects of that trauma that still create incredible disparities in our society today. It is time for Minnesota to come together and build an accurate, common narrative of history and diligently work to create a common future in which we can hopefully begin to heal the wounds that have been untreated for generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Jacobs. Now I would like to invite Reverend Curtis DeYoung, CEO of the Minnesota Council of Churches.
Good morning. As has been noted, I am Reverend Curtis DeYoung, CEO of the Minnesota Council of Churches, and we're honored to speak to you today. This is a historic moment for the Minnesota Council of Churches. In our nearly 75 years of existence, we now step fully into the work of racial justice. This has been building in our work over the last 2 years as we have centered the leadership of the Black denominations and those that lead those denominations into our lead positions and our board of directors. And that has changed the conversation and the direction of our work. And so today I stand with our board leadership to step out in faith in an effort to tell the truth in Minnesota, tell the truth in our churches, and tell the truth in our state, educate our folks to be ready then to move toward conversations in action on reparations. We believe the Council of Churches serves a unique role as a moral voice in this conversation. I want to say fully and transparently that this comes from our board of directors. I willingly and excitedly join them in their effort, but it has come unanimous vote from our 25 member denominations. This is also an attempt to take two stories the story of Indigenous people in Minnesota and the story of Black people in Minnesota, and bring those narratives together to address reparations hand in hand, knowing that this will also benefit all communities of color. And I expect even white people will benefit from this process. The next steps for us will be to seek partners. We cannot do this alone. So we'll be reaching out to build partnerships. We'll be setting a timeline and a plan. And of course, we'll be trying to raise some money to to hire a staff to lead this over the next few years. And then stepping into the serious fundraising and advocacy efforts that will create the kind of reparations that need to happen in these communities. So we step forward in faith today and are excited to be in this moment, speaking forth a word, an action of racial justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend DeYoung. And now we'll hear from our board president and the president of the Minnesota State Baptist Convention, Reverend Billy Russell. Reverend Russell, you're currently on mute, as is your video.
I'm mute. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, I'm thankful to be here this morning after a big struggle trying to get on this line. I had turned in everything, but something happened. I don't know. Somebody didn't want me to be on here, but thank God I'm here. And I can say that I fully support what the Council of Churches is doing right now. I've been a part of the Council of Churches for the last 8 years, and doing this 8 years, I've seen a lot of stuff. I've heard a lot of stuff. People have said one thing and did something else. I mean, it's been a lot of noise, just noise. Every time something happens, we make noise. But this time, I really feel like that it's not just noise. It's really something now that looks like it's going to be going to make a difference. So I'm thankful to be a part of the Council of Churches at this time. It's where it's more than just noise. We made noise every time something happened, from Philando Castile up to now. We made noise, but now I really believe, and I support this effort, that it's time to truly make a difference. And I believe that this is what the Council of Church is doing. We're taking the lead with all the different people across the state right now who are trying to do something to say that we want to do this. We want to pray. We want to protest. We want to participate. We want to do this. But I think that this move with the Council of Churches is making right now is doing more than just saying we're going to pray and we're going to protest and participate. I think this move right now is saying we're going to make a difference. So I'm happy to say I support this move. It's time, it's past time to make this move. And I support it 100%, that the Council of Church is now saying we're going to show that we are people of love who love God. Not only do we love God, but we love people. And we're going to have enough empathy to show to the people that with this kind of move, that we mean business. And when I say we mean business, that we are people of integrity. We say what we mean what we say, and we're going to finish this. This is not something we're just going to start and then stop over the next few months. No, we're going to finish this whole effort. So I want to applaud and thank God for our CEO, Dr. Curtis DeYoung, and the efforts he put forth. And I want to say I support Dr. DeYoung, and I support the board. I support all of these efforts that we're doing right now. Thank God it's finally come. Amen.
Thank you, President Russell. Now we'll move into a space where we invite questions from the media who are present. Please do feel free to either raise your hand in the participant window or unmute yourself. And if you have a question directed towards a particular participant, feel free to say so. If it's a general question, then I might ask a particular participant to respond.
Hi, this is Rehan Fisher. I'm with NPR, and I just wanted to ask if you guys can elaborate a little bit more about how this will look. Is it more about educating folks and making sure that you're changing the narrative? And what if you come across people who kind of disagree with the narrative that you are trying to put out there, because there's other information that sometimes contradicts some of the history. So how will you address that?
Reverend DeYoung, would you like to take the first crack at that?
Sure. Thank you for that question. Obviously, we are in the early stages of developing this work, but what we envision alongside partners is a truth-telling process that would be similar to that used in South Africa or in Canada with indigenous folks or in other parts of the world, that will make public the history, the contested histories, the history of harm that racism has produced. A lot of good research has already been done around redlining and housing issues, around health disparities. Certainly there's a lot of conversation right now around policing. We expect that will be a part of a truth-telling process. Our ultimate goal is to get at the systemic change that needs to occur. So there will be, as we continue in this work, there'll be efforts to connect with the legislature, the state, and certainly local municipalities as well. And then we are not afraid of having the conversations and taking action around true reparations and what that looks like, whether it be around land or money. But we certainly understand, I should say unpaid wages, but we certainly understand that the concept of reparations is a bigger concept than even that. It's about repairing, actually healing the damage that's been done because of racism in our state. Thank you. Oh, and I will say, we do expect there will be pushback and resistance because these are difficult conversations.
And Reverend Jacobs, would you like to offer a response as well?
Yeah, to answer that question, no, this is not simply a program to listen and to learn, but this is a program intended to heal. And as Christian people, this is the call of Christ. This is the meaning of the gospel. Christ says that if you are coming to the temple to worship, to leave your offering, and you realize that your neighbor, your brother, or your sister has a reason to hold something against you, that you are supposed to stop worshiping, you are supposed to stop what you are doing, and you are first to go and be reconciled. And we recognize that that reconciliation cannot happen unless we heal the repair. So will there be pushback when we are in the phases of truth telling and when we are in the phases of education? Absolutely, there will be pushback, but this is not something that is unknown to Indigenous peoples. It is not unknown to our Black brothers and sisters. This is, for generations now, there has been a historical narrative that has been told, and we have been the voices who have dissented in that narrative. And what we are doing is we are attempting to highlight those voices that have existed in the shadows for so long. They have been part of history, but have not been recorded in history. And our goal is to highlight those voices, to begin to arrive at a common historical narrative, to highlight the damage that has been done for many, many generations, going back to even before the founding of the United States. And as people of faith, to come together and work towards healing that. And that will take on many forms. What those reparations will look like, we are too early in this process to really kind of lay out what those reparations will look like, but certainly this is not just a program to educate and to listen, but this is a program to bring together to work towards healing that historic trauma.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the media? Well, I do believe in the power of silence. I'll give us 10 more seconds of it before we draw this to a conclusion. Feel free, if you are on the call though, to ask a question of the gathered speakers. All right. Well, thank you very much for being with us this morning. We appreciate the opportunity to share about the work of the council and its 25-member judicatories, everything that we envisioned, that, as Reverend DeYoung shared, the unanimous board movement of September to move forward with this vision of truth and reparations. We will be sending out a recording of this call to participants, and participants, you already have your press packets, which include the 3-page document, the vision of reparations itself. Thank you very much for being with us. And to our speakers, thank you very much for taking your time this morning to be present on this call. We appreciate this, and we look forward to walking forward in this vision with you. Goodbye.